Good morning, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you might be doing. We wish to welcome you to the Silverlight Show. The Silverlight shines to illuminate that which lies hidden in darkness. For those of you tuning in today, we welcome you in. There's a very interesting article in the Narwhal, which I will leave a link to down below because it's probably not a magazine that many of you read. And it's about installing natural gas connections to new homes. Recently, councils and building codes have been requiring major natural gas manufacturers, such as Enbridge, to install their connections into the homes. Enbridge, and indeed parts of the provincial government, are pushing back, and I'll quote directly from the article here. When Ontario Energy Minister Todd Smith publicly declared an independent regulator's decision to force a fossil fuel giant to pay for new household gas connection, he argued it would drive up the cost of new homes and delay construction. Let's break that down, shall we? First of all, it's a fossil fuel giant. It physically says that in the article. This isn't, Ma and Pa's natural gas delivery service. This is Enbridge. They're huge. They have tons of profit to go around. And the other interesting thing, it says this is going to be installed in new homes. You know what's open about new homes? The ground. So you can go in while the ground is still up, put in your connection, a lot cheaper than you can after the home is done. You have to find the nearest line and dig a trench and all that sort of things. And they're complaining this is going to add to the cost of a new house. Well, here's the funny thing. If you do it while the ground is up, you already have a supply line in to the customer. It's a question of turning it on and turning it off. And then that home can opt in or opt out. Natural gas equipment, well, the connection is relatively inexpensive. The furnace and stuff like that, that's where it starts to get expensive. And let's be honest, you want a natural gas furnace that you know isn't going to leak. So you're probably willing to pay a few dollars for that. But this resistance to, we're going to add to the cost of new homes, if you don't have that connection, you're not going to get customers. You can put it in while the ground is open, and it's cheaper for you. Everything is being done to make their lives easier, but they're still complaining it's too expensive. How ridiculous is that? Now, the other curious thing, and I believe this is included in the article, natural gas is basically methane. There's already a treaty on the world table that was actually enacted in 2020 during the pandemic. Because I always found it was interesting that that's when they decided to push things through, when everybody was distracted. But natural gas is a greenhouse gas. It's one of the things that they're trying to get rid of. Now it's a lot more benign than a lot of the other greenhouse gases that are being released out there. But at the same token, it's something we can probably do without with. I still ask my same questions. If we have a breakdown of 2030 to 2040 by the time that we want to eliminate these fossil fuels, where are the ships that are being built that are pure electric ships? Whether it be the military, I can understand. The military is going to get an exemption. That's just the way things are. But for cargo container ships, for yachts, for billionaires, for some people who are at a reasonable income level like to have their own little cruiser. And that's our idea of a good summer vacation. And I got nothing against it. I've heard very good reviews about living on a boat. Even in frosty Lake Ontario, if you can get a connection, there's like a bubble generator. You can stay in there all winter. That can be your permanent residence, if you so choose. Like I said, I don't know if I would, but I'm not going to take away from everybody that is. But who is building these ships and boats and stuff that are not going to use fossil fuels. It's not happening. Enbridge should probably get some sort of a tax break so they can start transitioning their infrastructure. I'm aware that in my area, a lot of the electricity is about half nuclear and half hydroelectric. So when you turn on a light, you know, the nuke plant and the turbines at Niagara Falls both crank up a little bit. It's pretty much the same for everybody in the area. We still don't have a way to reliably store electricity, so it's on demand. You may recall, I think it was, 2003? There was the big northeast blackout. And I was lucky enough that I wasn't living in this area at the time, and I managed to avoid it. I got a hurricane instead, so, you know, I didn't exactly get away scot-free. But that's the problem. We're going towards an electric grid, which is fantastic. Enbridge is refusing to install these connections because even though they might get 15 years of profit out of it or more, because they can't imagine they're going to take all these homes and everything off fossil fuels within the next 15 years. And I'm giving you the outside time frame. It was 2030. They're now talking about 2040, and there's even some mention of 2050. But it is an expense. I'll grant that to Enbridge. But if you don't run that expense now, when it's cheap, you are artificially inflating costs. Now, why would Enbridge choose to do this? I've already mentioned that they're already planning for the point where nobody wants natural gas anymore. Okay, diversify your portfolio. Back in the day, Apple was dying. Microsoft came in and gave them a couple $1 million as a loan. And they came out with their not the iPad, the was a little thing, and they had like YouTube advertising those brilliantly colorful commercials, you know, an iNano, iPod. That was it. They changed their game. And now, as much as I don't like Apple, and I've said so several times, they're a world leader. As a matter of fact, Microsoft loaned them money so that Microsoft could say, we are not a monopoly. There's this other company. And now they're going to sue Apple because it's got a monopoly control over phones, the market that I am happy to admit they pretty much built. They weren't the first on the scene, but they came out with a good product. Expensive, overpriced, and overinflated, but nobody can deny that the iPhone is a decent product. The manufacturing is terrible and amounts to human slavery. The way they get people lining up and selling their possessions so they can get the next iPhone is criminal. But I can't deny on a pure hardware basis, it's definitely a decent product. Enbridge has to start thinking about that now. Because whether they get 15 years or 25 years, you better get your R&D coming up with something pretty good right now. And it's possible. You might recall coal-fired plants. Well, do you know they're building new ones? Because filtration technology has become so good that they're able to burn coal, which anyone who had a barbecue knows pretty much what that smells like. And they innovated. They got better. They made their product more desirable. Natural gas generators are a thing. They work. So why can't these people apply the same or similar technology and either invest in a major generator that will supply electricity and do it in a let's just say within the carbon credits and, you know, environmentally approved areas. It cannot be that hard. Not petroleum. Liquid natural gas, which is propane essentially, burns relatively clean. And it's just a matter of adding scrubbers. Technology they could almost bring over directly from the coal plants and the oil plants and install it and enhance it a little, and they have their future market. There's other applications for it too. But you see, this is an example of legislation that doesn't really know what it wants to do. The intention is pure. Hey, Enbridge, you want a future market? Not everybody's going to cut off natural gas at once. So the more you can sell it now, the easier it's going to be for you. Enbridge is like, we don't want to spend all this money hooking up to homes when only 50% of them are going to turn on. Yes, but that 50% who only have to pay an installation fee of, say, $50 instead of, I don't know how much it's going to be to rip up, driveways and install tubing and stuff like that. I'm going to say $5,000 off the top of my head. Which are you going for, to be honest? Yeah, of course, the cheaper one. And the more people save, the more likely they are to spend on better furnaces, air conditioners. There's all those other things that you can be putting on at the end of the service. Companies don't think like that. They look on an initial return on investment. Short-sighted, it's selfish instead of rational self-interest. And even when you push them to say, hey, this is for everybody's good, they're still unwilling to consider it because by the time all that gets installed and the houses come online and they're sold and stuff, that board of directors is going to be out and enjoying their golden parachutes while the next one is able to say, look what we did. We've generated X amount of new customers. It's a crying shame that they don't see it's in their own benefit to put these systems in while the ground is still open. Now, when it's not going to be pennies, but at the same token, it's going to be so much cheaper. But that's the way companies work. And when you give a monopoly to somebody like Enbridge, that's unfortunately the way things are always going to work. With that, we hope you enjoyed this episode of the Silverlight Show. If you did, please like, share, because sharing is caring. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Please click the notification icon down below, whether it's a bell or whatever shape they've come up with today. And we hope you have a fantastic day.